Please subscribe for more. Brief History of the Empire, Volume 3. The first volume of this series told in brief the story of the succession of the first 8 emperors of the Septim dynasty, from Tiber Septim I to Kintera II. The second volume described the War of the Red Diamond and the 6 emperors that followed its aftermath, from Uriel III to Cassinda. At the end of that volume, it was described how the Emperor Cassinda's half-brother Uriel IV assumed the throne of the Empire of Tamriel. It will be recalled that Uriel IV was not a Septim by birth. His mother, though she reigned as empress for many years, was a dark elf married to a true Septim emperor, Pelagius Septim III. Uriel's father was actually Cataria's consort after Pelagius's death, a Breton nobleman named Galivaire Lariat. Before taking the throne of empire, Cassinda had ruled the kingdom of Wayrest, but poor health had forced him to retire. Cassinda had no children, so he legally adopted his half-brother Uriel and abdicated the kingdom. 7 years later, Cassinda inherited the empire at the death of his mother. 3 years after that, Uriel once again found himself the recipient of Cassinda's inheritance. Uriel IV's reign was a long and difficult one. Despite being a legally adopted member of the Septim family, and despite the Lariat family's high position, indeed they were distant cousins of the Septims, few of the elder council could be persuaded to accept him fully as a blood descendant of Tiber. The council had assumed much responsibility during Cataria's long reign and Cassinda's short one, and a strong-willed alien monarch like Uriel IV found it impossible to command their unswerving fealty. Time and again the council and emperor were at odds, and time and again the council won the battles. Since the days of Pelagius Septim II, the elder council had consisted of the wealthiest men and women in the empire, and the power they wielded was conclusive. The council's last victory over Uriel IV was posthumous. Andorak Septim, Uriel IV's son, was disinherited by vote of council, and a cousin more closely related to the original Septim line was proclaimed Cephorus II in 3247. For the first 9 years of Cephorus II's reign, those loyal to Andorak Septim battled the imperial forces. In an act that the sage Ariantine called Tiber Septim's heart beating no more, the council granted Andorak Septim the high rock kingdom of Shornhelm to end the war, and Andorak Septim's descendants still rule there. By and large, Cephorus II had foes that demanded more of his attention than Andorak. From out of a Cimmerian nightmare, in the words of Ariantine, a man who called himself the Cameron usurper led an army of Daedra and undead warriors on a rampage through Valenwood, conquering kingdom after kingdom. Few could resist his onslaughts, and as month turned to bloody month in the year 3E249, even fewer tried. Cephorus II sent more and more mercenaries into Hammerfell to stop the usurper's northward march, but they were bribed or slaughtered and raised as undead. The story of the Cameron usurper deserves a book of its own. It is recommended that the reader find Palo Ilthra's The Fall of the Usurper for more detail. In short, however, the destruction of the forces of the usurper had little to do with the efforts of the emperor. The result was a great regional victory and an increase in hostility toward the seemingly inefficacious empire. Uriel V, Cephorus II's son and successor, swiveled opinion back toward the latent power of the empire. Turning the attention of Tamriel away from internal strife, Uriel V embarked on a series of invasions, beginning almost from the moment he took the throne in 3E268. Uriel V conquered Roscrea in 271, Cathnoke in 276, Yaineslea in 279, and Esroniet in 284. In 3E288, he embarked on his most ambitious enterprise, the invasion of the continent kingdom of Akavir. This ultimately proved a failure, for 2 years later Uriel V was killed in Akavir on the battlefield of Ionith. Nevertheless, Uriel V holds a reputation second only to Tiber as one of the two great warrior emperors of Tamriel. The last four emperors, beginning with Uriel V's infant son, are described in the fourth and final volume of this series. The End.